So I'm Matt Hoots, and I've got a special guest with us. We've got Rachel. We'll go over that in a second. But I lifted somebody's presentation. You guys remember in December, we talked about don't do stupid things. We all do stupid things. I gave him credit for it. So if you guys are thinking that no, I'm the original stupid, I'm not. I've done a lot of stupid things. But we're going to talk about today, tell about stories. It's not just how you build the house, but also how you live in the house. And I think I warned Corbett. He's in the presentation. Chris, can I get your permission to talk? It's a good thing. It's about something. And Chris Matos Rogers, I forgot to talk to you. I was going to talk about your house in a good way, but talk about radon. Is that okay? All right, good. We got good stories from people in the room. So yeah, we got it. So our first sponsor is Panasonic. They are not here, but they did start something really cool for us, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting once I have a chance to talk to the other council members about how we do that. Again, ventilation solutions for your home. The first sponsor up here is Real Wood Floors, and Gino is going to make one of his underlings come up here, right? Are you gonna do it? So Caleb is new, so ask them really difficult questions. We've used them. They, again, real wood is good because it's not off-gassing, and especially if you're not using chemicals to refinish the floor, but they've got a lot of pre-finished options and also a lot of healthy home options. And it's all made, I'm assuming mostly Missouri?
Yeah, we're headquartered in Missouri.
All right, cool. All right, take it away.
Fantastic. Just want to say thank you guys for coming out, taking time to be here. Again, my name is Caleb, and I'm with Real Wood Floors. And we're actually a manufacturer of hardwoods, and we sell those directly to the trade. We also provide a turnkey install with that. Really, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, we're based in West Plains, Missouri, but currently in Atlanta, we're in Chamblee, been in the market for almost a decade. But yeah, just kind of wanted to give into really just the importance of using products that are going to be safe in your homes. You don't want any products that are going to be emitting any off gases. So we actually make sure that our products are UL Green Guard Gold VOC free. And essentially VOC is volatile organic compounds. And essentially it's off gases that are coming out of the floor during the manufacturing process. So we want to make sure that our products aren't putting off any harmful pollutants. We're also CARB 2 compliant, which is essentially formaldehyde emission limits. So we try to prevent any sort of any harmful pollutants coming out of the floor. It's actually the strictest compliance. It's actually regulated by the state of California, comes in with that. So yeah, we also are Floor Score certified, which means that the finish that we use on our products, which we specialize in like a pre-finished engineered, is not putting any harmful gases, any pollutants out into the home. We're also FSC certified, which is Forest Stewardship Council. And so we're actually ethically sourcing our materials. We're not just picking up plywood off the side of the road and turning it into engineered hardwoods, luckily. So we want to make sure we're sourcing all of our materials safely. We also partner with the National Wood Flooring Association. So we're also certified through them. So our grading and our milling processes are very clean, and the performance of our product is definitely up to par. So I just really believe that flooring is huge in the home. It goes almost in every room, and you want to make sure that the products that you're choosing for your homes aren't going to be harming any homeowners, any pets, any kids. So we just want to make sure that we're conscious of what we're putting in our homes. So when you buy from us, you're buying direct. Our goal is to be like a one-stop shop. You come in, we own all the mills where the products are made. We get them to you. We guarantee the warranties. So yeah, we'd love to partner with any of y'all and just emphasize the importance of getting products that are green. So,
and just real quick, if you're doing anything that's wider than 5 inches, they've got some amazing wide plank flooring that is engineered, and that's probably the only way that you can actually get wide plank without it buckling and whatnot on you. So a really good option there. We've tried them out. So appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
So something else we like to do, we say don't do stupid things. One of the things some homeowners like to do is I want to kill everything in my house. So they spray their house down with lots of chemicals. Northwest has some ways of doing this on the outside. And we even at the end of the presentation, I've got some people want to tell some stories about pest control, things they've done with their landscaping and whatnot to help with that. So we've got Cynthia, talk about healthy pest control.
All right, guys, Cynthia Venditti with Northwest Exterminating. Thank you for having me. We are a full-service pest control company. Our mission is to create healthier living and working environments for homes and businesses. And with that mission, we are currently the leaders in green in the region because we offer a whole line of green products for your pest solutions. And that's gonna be earth-based, it's gonna be environment-friendly, kid-friendly, and pet-friendly. So like he said, just to kind of sideway a little bit here, I think a lot of misconceptions when homeowners are calling in is that they just want us to spray everything inside their home because they have issues, but there really is a lot of mechanical things, and we believe that really we have to work on all angles when it comes to pest control. So if you have trees that are leaning onto your roof, it doesn't matter if we spray the foundation, you're gonna get roaches from the top or other kind of critters and things like that. Like people think that we can kill mosquitoes inside your house. You need to put screens up for things like that. And so, I've worked on the office side, I've worked with homeowners and stuff. So now I'm in the new construction side. I'm supporting builders like Matt. So that's really what it is about. Now, with it being a full pest control company, we offer the pest control in green services, even mosquito reduction, even if you're harvesting bees in the back or you've got gardens with vegetables, we have like green solutions for all of that. Now, just to talk a little bit about termites, Georgia and the surrounding states are considered the highest ranking area in the nation for termites because we have humid climate and mild winters. So this is really the hot spot for termites. And also they only need 1/16 of an inch to get into the structure. So what we do on the new construction side is we want to support your builds, make sure that if you are building and putting all this effort into building a home to last for decades, we don't want something as small as a grain of rice to be the thing that destroys that home. That's all I got.
I was working on a project with Chris. We put all the different tapes, and I think some of you guys saw that, but we're also doing the bait system on the outside. You don't want anything to get close to the house, in case something does come off and whatnot. So definitely believe in the bait system. So I want to tell a quick story about South Face. I've been working with South Face for probably 26 years now. And early on, when I was part of the Home Performance Energy Star program, one of the presidents, and I already told James it wasn't him, told me that indoor air quality was a myth. And I was like, man, it's like my allergies aren't telling me that. I'm allergic to dust. I'm allergic to basically everything on a construction site. Mold, dust mites, cheap perfume, all that. VOCs, I have a reaction to it. I wouldn't say that I'm chemical sensitive, but I'm gonna sneeze for a little bit, get it out of my system. If I go to a client's house and my throat starts itching, it's like, I'm sorry, I've gotta leave. I'll go back, get my mask, and then I'll have a conversation with the mask. So VOCs are real. It's not something we've made up for this presentation, but we're gonna talk about everything inside your house from the building side and also the living side from an air quality point of view that can make you sick. So I believe in VOCs, energy efficiency matters. All these things need to be looked at together. So an energy efficient home that is sick is kind of pointless. It's gonna fall apart. And that's why we're all here, is to learn how to build holistic houses, look a way to integrate all these systems without making people sick and also without a huge energy penalty. So that being said, as builders, a lot of times when a client comes up to us and says, hey, I've got these chemical sensitivities or I'm allergic to these chemicals, we tend to dismiss them as like, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. But that's more and more the population these days, and Rachel's going to speak to that here in a second. So we need to take those clients seriously. We need to make sure that we have, through this group and others, good resources to be able to help them out. So I want you to take, all of us have some sort of chemical sensitivities. And is Carl Seville here? Of course he didn't come. But, all right, I'm taking out all of his plugs out of the presentation. No, I remember one of the first projects that I worked on with him like 2.5 decades ago. The client said, I moved into this new Earthcraft house that you guys built for us. I'm not using tissue anymore. So just from a health point of view, it's like, we got rid of all the dust, all the pathogens, had a good filtration system on it, just very basic things. Because again, we weren't building something that was super spectacular. It was it was above code, but it was just amazing. Just the basic things like that made them live in a healthy house. So without further ado, I know you guys have known Rachel. She's usually sitting over there, and she's the one that's saying great things about foam insulation and all these other chemicals that we're putting into our houses. So we're going to be telling stories and going through indoor air quality issues today. So I'm going to go ahead and let her talk about.
I feel like being in this room, I've gotten to know a lot of you, and I'm always like, what's your qualifications? And you're like, I study this, and I have a PhD and a master's and whatever. Mine's like, I got kicked out of college until my family got really, really sick. And part of my story is I didn't really know what I was doing with my life. I ended up losing my job right before we bought our sick house. So we moved into our house when I was 2 days postpartum with my second child. Within a day, we found asbestos. Within 2 months, we had to replace our HVAC because it was oversized and basically created a moisture explosion in the house. In the span of the 2 years we lived there, we ended up dealing with termites, had our house tented. We had a sewer backup from the city 3 times. We had a hurricane, so we had lots of wind damage, water damage, you name it, and then we found mold. And by the time we actually found it, I had a child who we were looking at potentially a cancer diagnosis. It was really scary. But the consultant we ended up working with said, you have to leave your house, get rid of everything you own, and leave the state of Florida, which is now not at all what I advise my clients. So, I mean, what ended up being a very traumatic experience thrust me into the health field. So I actually got certified as a healthcare practitioner first. So all of you guys, if you want to hear what I really believe about the beer that you're drinking, just let me know after. But got certified as a healthcare practitioner, started helping chronically ill people. Then decided I'm really passionate about the home space because of the experience we had with a really crappy inspector, really, really crappy remediation, failed process all the way across the board. So I do hold certifications in inspection, remediation, and building biology. So the job that I hold right now, my own company, I advise people all across the US and Europe. Generally, they're chronically ill. They're referred to me by their physician, their practitioner, or even a friend who said, some girl on Instagram said your house might be making you sick. But I walk them through a process where we inspect the home, we sample the home, pursue remediation, not just of mold, other toxins as well, come up with a cleaning protocol at the end of it, determine if we have to get rid of possessions, and then post that, I'm ordering labs, I'm putting together protocols for every member of the family, and ultimately we're getting people well. So that's just a little bit about my business, my expertise. Wanted to start with a story. So a client came to me from Texas, 2 kids, both are showing signs of potentially autism spectrum. We have lots of like speech delays, toe walking, weird food aversions. She's getting really, really sick. Everybody has rashes. They can't figure it out. She finds mold in a shower. They remediate it, and they're still not better. And I say, well, I'm going to look up your house on Google Maps. They paid $2,500 to have the best inspector in Texas come to their house, and he missed this. So everybody can probably tell there's an issue with flashing and the gutter paired with what we proved by a foundation expert came out. There's foundation settling. So you had about 1/8 of an inch crack down this entire line with water intrusion. Now the inside of that wall is her master shower, her master bedroom, and her kids' bedrooms. So they're all affected. The interior walls were saturated and had mold all throughout the house. Now the quirky part, we're gonna kind of play like devil's advocate, I guess. So this is builder error. Client leaves this house, we find them a new house that doesn't really have a mold issue. They upgrade it, they get all the healthy performance. Mechanical systems are like on point. We have perfect extraction, all sorts of things. Calls me a couple months later, I'm really sick again. She's suffered a miscarriage, she's really stressed, she thinks it's mold, have a mold inspection again. Then we find out she's not running her exhaust when she cooks, she's burning candles every day, she's not utilizing her extraction when they shower, and the humidity is not being monitored because the builder never turned on the dehumidifier. So no wonder they're sick. But this is just an example of things builders can do that end up with issue, but also that the client can do.
And you said that was the house that she moved into after she fixed the other house, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they fixed one house, and then she moved into another house, and her behavior didn't really change very much. All right. So I know there's been a debate about who's built the first passive house in Georgia. So in 1986, for my science project, I built one out of cardboard, duct tape, and transparency paper. So unfortunately, that was in the state of Alabama, so the record still goes to somebody else for Georgia. Just kidding. So I listed all these things just to say, hey, I've been doing this a long time. I just want to show a date way in the past and one over here. Been working with South Face since 2000, 2001. My main thing is not to like be the first in any of these things. Is like, how can we make the industry better? this group alone, I mean, just look at what we talked about a year ago from now, and then the conversations we're having now. Just look at the maturity of the group, how everyone's kind of risen up together as far as our knowledge. That's really what my goal is for this state. And a lot of people in here I'm smarter because of you. I'm looking at Howard. I mean, Carl's not here, so I can't give him credit. Chris has challenged me a lot. Corbett's challenged me a lot. So I've got, we have to grow together. Certifications, I've got a lot of certifications listed up here. My take on that is if you know nothing about green building, I think certifications matter a lot. Because a lot of people say, hey, I'm building to LEED for Home standard or Passive House standards. That's great. Why not just get the certification then? Because the homeowner is not going to know. You don't have the testing, and a lot of times, with home performance with Energy Star, EPI certification, the testing matters. Like if you're not testing a house at the very end of it, I'm gonna have a story with Corbett, like where we tested a house, I thought I installed everything correctly. Well, we had a piece of plastic over something and we had some issues. So you have to test these houses. I guess my biggest thing that I'm proud of is probably just being part of the BS and Beer media team. We get to film these and put them on YouTube. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll send that out. And we are quickly trying to edit everything and get it, all the past ones that we have recorded onto the YouTube channel.
Is it BS and Beer Atlanta or?
Yes. Yes, I didn't bring the QR code, so that's really my fault. Yes. Yeah, I want to thank Corbett for putting that web. That's why we have so many people here, because we've put this on the internet, and Corbett's done an amazing job. Oh, there we go. We do have one.
Scan it if you would like.
So scan this.
I'll give you 20 seconds.
No. Wait, this one has fossil fuels in it. It's got a dinosaur. So that being said, the presentation today is more about just telling stories. I'm telling homeowner stories, and again, these stories aren't blaming anybody. We're trying to educate, we're trying to learn as a group, and I wish somebody would have told me these stories before we made these mistakes, or my clients made some of these mistakes on how they lived in houses. So Rachel, this is her. We're organizing all this, like we need some categories, and she came up with these brilliant categories, so the whole presentation is gonna be based on this.
So I obviously go pretty mold heavy. I'm working with mold sensitive clients, but when we're considering indoor air quality, I try to separate it into categories that we're all familiar with. Moisture and biological contaminants, combustion and gas contaminants, soil and geological gases, chemical contaminants like VOC load and materials, and particulate pollution. So we're gonna try to share stories from both sides in each category. I think when we're considering indoor air quality, if we're not considering all the categories, we're gonna miss something, whether you're a builder, an architect, an HVAC professional, an inspector, you name it. We need to have education in every category. The idea with moisture control is if that's gonna fail, you're gonna have mold. And that could be your vapor barrier, your waterproofing membrane, it can be your ventilation systems, it can be your indoor relative humidity. We're gonna have mold, that's gonna be a problem. Source control fails, you're gonna have VOC exposure. So I love that we have a cleaner wood flooring company. I'm a big advocate for natural clean materials because I also work with chemically sensitive. That's gonna be a big point. Ventilation fails. I think we have a couple stories later specifically about ventilation and stupid clients who don't use their ventilation appropriately. But pollutant accumulation, obviously you have multiple types of pollutants there, and then filtration fails. So we're gonna have particulate exposure. We're gonna try to touch on each and every one of those throughout the presentation.
And one thing I want you guys to be thinking about as builders and also consumers, and we'll have a discussion at the end, do we need to design houses that are homeowner proof, or do homeowners need to know how to use their house? I'm not asking you to answer that right now, but I struggle with that all the time. I try to put controls in there, they find ways of overriding the controls, and it's like, at what point, which side is liable for it? My whole thing is I'm gonna make a YouTube video, send you a URL, you've gotta watch it, and then I've got evidence that it's on the internet. So that's my take on that. But I know that's kind of a mean way of doing it. So the first thing, we're going to tell some stories about moisture and biological contaminants. We're not saying things that cause the M word.
So this is an example I actually used in one of my certifications. This is a massive apartment building in Vancouver in the 80s and 90s. So you have exterior stucco, there's missing flashing all over the place. So eventually 10 blocks of these apartments had to be the exteriors were entirely removed. Everything was remediated that was affected in the inside. But you can see this is sort of like in the middle of the process, they had scaffolding up for over a year just to try to deal with the issues. All of it was moisture control. So the exterior was saturated, it was seeping into the inside, it was affecting all of the inhabitants. This is where we get something like chronic inflammatory response syndrome or sick building syndrome, which became very popular in the 90s with physicians. But that is pure moisture control error. So we had mold as a result in this apartment stack.
Yeah, and one of the things about this is like, yes, things need to dry out, but if it's constantly wet, it can't dry out. So things can get wet as long as they dry out, but this is always good. Lack of flashing, no ventilation behind it is going to be an issue.
This is an example. So we lived in Florida. I am not from Florida. I didn't want to live in Florida. My husband's from Ireland. He doesn't understand heat. So we had to replace our HVAC system 2 months after we bought our house. We knew nothing about it. Our parents knew nothing. We just called an HVAC guy and said, we need a new unit. And he put an oversized unit because his reviews on Yelp consistently said, I'm tired of my house not being cold enough. So his solution was, I'm just going to install massive units to try and make up for it. And it just created excessive humidity inside that ended up being the bigger problem. So this is more, obviously, when you have moisture, we're not just talking about leaks or moisture intrusion in roof lines and things like that. We have to consider indoor relative humidity, how moisture is passing through all the space. And you might see an increase in humidity dependent upon the number of people in a home. I have a new client in Chicago. There's 13 people living in 800 square feet. We have a massive humidity problem. So that's just one of the other examples.
If you're from the north, I lived in New England for a little while, and like 1 week out of the year, we had a wall unit that we'd put with just a window unit for air conditioning. So I had a client here. She decided to go on vacation in the middle of the summer. And she did like what she did in New England. She shut her system off, came back. She's like, hey, Matt, can you help me out with this? Like, there's something on my walls. I walked in, started breaking out in hives. Like, I cannot help you with this. Here's my mold guy's information. Sorry, but you have to use your air conditioning. So we talked about like letting things dry out. Well, my client here is purposely wetting the area. We've got a steam shower. And we created this video with Corbett, had nothing to do with indoor air quality and whatnot. It was more because Mr. Steam was mad at me because I put a bath fan in the steam shower. I was like, you can't do that. It's like, well, it's for after they're done so it can dry out. And they said, well, it's not going to dry out or all the steam's going to go through it. And it's like, no, there's a backflow damper on there, and it's and I talked to Panasonic. If it doesn't work, just tape a penny to it and then we're good. So we didn't get to do that, unfortunately, but we did some testing. So Corbett was in there, thank you. I'm not sure if we messed up your equipment, but it didn't seem to be working the next time. Put a flow hood on it, put the steam on there. You know, there's negligible. There's no air going through that. The backflow damper was working fine. So that solved that problem. So we were able to create a video, show Mr. Steam if they ever said that it's not steamy enough in there because of you. It was actually because it was undersized, had nothing to do with us. But again, I like to prove that I'm not wrong. I don't want to be right. I still want to don't be wrong and not get sued. So since then, what happened? So that's Corbett from this group. Also, remember our mold expert that came in and signed? David invited him out to the house because we had a smell issue. And I was like, there's something going on in the crawl space maybe. We need to, I was thinking we're going to solve it through some sort of ventilation as if you had radon or something in the basement. Again, it was air sealed, we were fine. And he's like, no, I think what's happening is the steam shower is causing other issues in the bathroom. So we opened up the cabinet. I put humidistat in there and it was like 70%. And this is after the bath. After they said they dried it out, it was 90% in the shower, 70% in the cabinet. And I was like, what are you doing? And essentially just the whole bathroom, they're opening up the shower door and letting all the steam into the space. So we also have an ERV in here too. So what I did is turn the ERV on, it's 100%. So we do have a bath fan in there. The ERV is right here, you can't see that. And now we've got the moisture under control in there. But as a builder, it's like, you know, they are wetting the space. It does need to get dried out. I need to also let them know, it's like, there's other things you have to do. I've got extra controls in here to help you with it. So make sure that they put the settings on the ERV just right, so it's always running instead of just running intermittently, because I need it to always be running in this bathroom. Plus, just helps with some of the smells. But if you get the whole space wet, you're gonna have to give Rachel a call. She's gonna have to do some testing.
Very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. We did some microbial testing, and luckily the outside was worse than the inside, so nothing. But it was just starting to smell a little bit. So also, when you wet the space, when you're talking about the carpets, some of these other woods in there, you're releasing some of the formaldehydes and some of the the water. Even if it's a water-based something, you're causing some of the VOCs to come back into the space. So you got to keep moisture under control, not only for contaminants, but also for VOCs.
Show of hands, who thinks they know what room in a home this is in? Anybody? There we go. Do we need a vapor barrier in an attic? So let's guess what state this was in. You said it. It was in Florida. So client, this was covered in insulation. We removed all the insulation. They had no idea there was a vapor barrier in there. Custom built home, so needless to say, we had a lawyer involved. But obviously you're gonna have moisture and condensation on the underside of this. Super, super hot attic, because they're still all ventilated. They're not conditioned for the most point. But lots of condensation. This was an entire attic gut job, mechanical system gut job, you name it. They wanted to stay, so they paid for it. We have those clients sometimes.
Was that a steam shower?
Yeah, no, it was just all throughout the entire attic. So drywall wasn't necessarily saturated beneath. Don't know quite why, but the entire attic we counted as compromised. Ceilings were compromised, just not walls. Still semi-in, we're talking about moisture. This is obviously a can light and we're lacking enough air sealing. In this home, absolutely no air sealing because it was just a standard spec build in a massive neighborhood. But what I've trained a lot of clients to do when they start, I say you have to invest in a high beam flashlight, a hygrometer, and a moisture meter. Now, they're very cheap. They're not like high quality like we'd use in an inspection. It's affordable. We try to stay under $100, but at least gets them curious. This is actually how we found the mold in my house. We were about to stain a deck that we had built in the backyard. My kids took the moisture meter because in Florida it rains every day. We had to time it perfectly. We were checking moisture to see when we could stain it. Kids took the moisture meter, ran around the house and put it on every wall. It hit a wall and just went boop, 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 boop. And this is like a $20 model at Home Depot. Proved that we had moisture in a wall. So goes to show if you can teach your homeowners, whether you're the builder, the architect, a tradesman, whatever, if you can teach them to be more mindful and consider things like areas that might need to be air sealed. I actually brought a friend tonight, Preston. He's with Mead Indoor Environmental. Bill, the founder of Mead, showed me on a client's house one time, perfectly air sealed house, except behind a thermostat. And mold was found in a wall behind where the thermostat was because there was a little bit of a gap where there was still air coming in and out and moisture had saturated the wall. So teaching clients to understand, yes, there is an importance to a builder knowing what he's doing, but we have to train our clients to understand what to look for, how to maintain, and questions to ask, like air sealing or how extraction works or ventilation. I could probably throw in there nearly 80% of my clients when I say, have you ever been in your attic? And they're like, no, why would I do that? I don't know, because it's the biggest purchase of your life. So this is just another example of where we can have moisture, water intrusion, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have mold. We had an occurrence like this. The AC went out in my house last summer, and I went up in the attic and crawled across and moved all the insulation out of the way, and there's not an active leak. It was just excessive humidity interacting with a non-air sealed smoke alarm. And so obviously sealed that up and got that fixed.
So this is a friend's house. This is in Massachusetts. She actually reached out to me and say, why, like what's going on? We can have a whole discussion about the roof. So we were looking at the roof, had some ice dams. What are the things like, hey, like why do I have ice dams? I use spray foam insulation. Doesn't it solve all the problems? So what happened here, you've got some skylights somewhere in there. Basically the heat off the skylights melted, you got some ice dams, pulled that back. There wasn't any ice and water shield up there. And basically the whole roof was its own mess. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about, look at these bushes and stuff down here. You see the snow and whatnot, but I was just looking at the rebuild, like when they fixed that, the ceiling had collapsed. They're like, hey, there's some rot in the walls. What's going on there? And I'm like, this is clear back a little bit. It's like, where was your grade? And your grade was way up here. That's wood. So I had a client here in Atlanta, did the same thing, built this amazing house. It was a showcase house, and the landscaper came in, brought the grade up, and they had some issues. Like, oh, by the way, Matt, we've got termite issues. I'm like, that's not good. So what did they do? Did they fix the grade? No. They just pumped a bunch of chemicals into the slab next to where the termites were. I'm like, that's not really solving your moisture issue. You need to fix that. I was like, they've gone away. We're good. You still have an issue with moisture. So you've got to get the landscaping, you've got to get the mulch away from the house. So whenever I'm designing houses or building houses, we make sure that we've got some fluctuation there for the landscapers, but also let them know, it's like, you can't come above this. Chris on his drawings, draws where the dirt needs to go. That's where the landscape, I'm not being sarcastic, that's where it needs to go, because if it goes any higher than that, it's an issue. But it's going to go higher, a little bit higher with the mulch over time. So you just have to educate your clients, let them know that you've got to pull the mulch away from it. And is Landert here? He's not here. He was also telling me that on his house, he pulled the mulch away from this one area, then miraculously all the bugs disappeared in that particular room. All right, now we're gonna go on to another fun topic. We're gonna get away from water. We could have talked about the M word all day today. All right.
This is the best we could come up with.
Sorry, this is mine for her.
This is probably, I had a client, so this is builder error and client error, but builder put the fresh air intake in the garage. And the client would send her husband out to mow the lawn, and he finishes his job and he parks the lawnmower in the garage and shuts the door. And the fresh air intake was pulling in the gas fumes and grass fumes. So just an example of combustion storage, where you store things. I had a client recently say, well, I just have this carport, they had an addition, it's like a deck above it. Can't we just close it in? Well, no, because we've got to route mechanical systems. There's all sorts of things. And you've been storing essentially all these hazardous chemicals open in the air to, the natural elements. You already have a chemical problem in the house. That's probably a bad idea.
Recently, I got a call, said, Matt, my carbon monoxide detectors are going off. And I'm like, we mostly electrified them. They had one appliance still in there. So went out and bought a super sensitive carbon monoxide detector. I had one, but I wanted one that's even more sensitive. Couldn't find anything. The only thing that I could figure out is I noticed the grass was just cut. So even though you are keeping the chemicals away from the house, if you have lawn care and they're using petrochemicals in the lawn care, I did have an ERV. My ERV, I looked at it, doesn't necessarily filter out some of those chemicals. It's PM 2.5. It's like my MERV 13 filter is great, except for chemicals that are in the air, like your nitrous oxide and all those other things. So. So this was the New American Home. Amazing house. They got platinum certification, all those different things. Indoor air quality plus. And I went to the builder afterwards. So I've got another slide in here. It's like, how did you get indoor air quality plus? All the cars and like some of all the furnishing stuff down there. Because my eyes were watering in the basement. He's like, yeah, we tested the house. I'm like, before or after the cars? Like, oh yeah, before the cars. So, but it's a really cool concept. Right now, I'm on this actually video showing off the Lazy Susan. It was probably 20 feet wide. You can put the car on, can spin in the basement. Now again, I do like the homeowner. I'm not saying his house is bad. I believe he's got he's using his house for awareness for autism, and everything that was donated on his house as far as materials, because of the showcase house, he wrote a check to this other fund in the equal amount. So he's trying to do the right things here. But then when I see something like this, like, you were talking about earlier about, some of the indoor quality could affect our mental wellness. I've got another slide in the same basement, and again, my eyes are watering from the VOCs, but we'll get to that in a second. This is another client. I've had two clients keep. Now this one was pretty cool. It was you drive in from the outside, it would lower you into the basement. It looked like it was pretty well air sealed from the house. I didn't smell anything inside the house, so it did seem. But I mean, they did try. They put an ERV in there. It might have slightly been. Okay, well, they put a dehumidifier in there. So there was no ERV in there. So I looked around, I saw that, and I said, hey, where's your ERV? They pointed it up there. And this was just so to see if Corbett knew what he was looking at. And also I asked him in the gym, I'll get to the gym slide in a second, it's like, it's really smelly in here. The off-gassing is like, but it's an open ceiling. And I looked up, it wasn't an open ceiling. So you have to look at what you bring into your house, especially vehicles, Yes, that was in the basement, but if you bring it into a garage, attached garage, those chemicals can get sucked into your house, especially if you have a negative pressure in the zone right next to it. And I've had clients that have had issues with that.
I think a lot of Americans don't understand carbon monoxide. My first trip to Ireland to meet my future in-laws, my in-laws get a call, hey, the boys from church had gone up to the North Coast for a retreat, 4 of them, and nobody's answering the phone. Tiny little country, everybody knows everybody. So somebody has called somebody, there's a whole group of guys going up to find the guys, worried they've drowned in the ocean or something. And they find them all in this house, dead. 4 of them. And it's because they had a cracked heat exchanger and there was an oil leak that they didn't know about because this is the first time they had turned on the radiators for the season. It was very, very cold. So very dramatic introduction to the country of Ireland for me, but very small, tight-knit community led to literally everybody in the church then went and had their carbon monoxide levels checked their radiators for cracks, all sorts of things. So it had a good outcome, but it was a very jarring result because things were not well maintained. So this is not a builder error, this is a maintenance error. I think the argument with a lot of the things we're talking about, mechanical systems, alarms that are monitoring indoor air quality, a lot of it is up to the homeowner. If you have a homeowner who's never been in their attic, then they're not gonna know what the attic is supposed to look like. If they've never been the one to change out their air filter in their HVAC, they've just hired someone out to do it, how are they gonna learn about the importance of timing and how to inspect it themselves? So we can educate people on how to monitor indoor air quality and different contaminants, but also know how to stay on top of maintenance for very important things. I'd never been in a house with a radiator. I didn't grow up in an area like that, but being in this space, that is everybody I know in Ireland. So obviously I took it upon myself to make sure everybody has annual maintenance in all their homes, anybody that I know, but that's a very big, dramatic experience, story, I guess, to share. Meant to just sort of give awareness, not, maybe it was shock and awe, but give, I guess, education to the value in monitoring not just our homes and the air quality, but educating our clients on how to do the same.
Like Joe said, don't kill people.
Listen, like if I'll tell a story. Like I had a client that sent me a post yesterday, and she said, "Hey, I saw this circulating on Facebook. The whatever brand might be having some issues. I don't know if it's just one of those Facebook things that got recycled over and over. It's like this is the brand. This is what we use." She's like, oh, "Okay, cool. We're good with that." Another client called me up, and I was there faster than the fire department. It's like we our CO detector's going off in the house. Like I got there, checked everything. Everything was good. I think it was something like some smoke coming in from the outside. But as a contractor, you have to take these clients' complaint, even if you don't think it is anything, you have to take a look at it. I don't care if it's out of warranty. You need to be at that client's house checking it out. All right, this is the fun one. When we talk about monitoring, we're going to talk about fun things like radon. So the radon test, I know we've had people speak about radon. You can have your sample. Your sample is one point in time. I prefer radon monitoring. Monitoring is a sensor that you have in the house. You're looking at it over time. You can have them in different parts of your house. Well, I've had 2 different stories. And Chris, can I tell your story? About yours? So this has to do with ventilation radon. So everyone thinks like, hey, ventilation is great. And Corbett actually gave the answer earlier. Ventilation is great. I've got more ventilation in the house. I've got my ERV. I've got my bath fans. I've got my exhaust hood. That should be sucking all the radon out of the house too, right? No, you're sucking it in the house. So I didn't know this, and I've learned 2 ventilation stories from you and experience in your house. So as a green real estate agent taught me about green buildings just by experiencing his house. So I think in your house you said that the radon levels went up when the exhaust fan was downstairs because you had the monitors, and I was like, hey, I never would have thought about that, but that makes sense. In that area, I had another project recently where the kitchen hood, again, and the ERV were quite balanced. We had negative, house was really tight, too much pressure in the house. We actually blew one of the radon gaskets off of where the sump pump was, and it was off the charts. And the client's like, hey, why is it so high? And he was like, man, I worked really hard making sure that radon system was super tight, but my ventilation actually broke my radon systems. Way to go that. We sealed that up, that was fine, and then we made it active instead of passive, so radon levels went back down to 0. So we're good with that. So my ventilation system caused radon issues. These systems all have to be looked at together. You're not gonna have a silver bullet. That's one of the things that we need to talk about. House as a system. If you're doing new construction, there's For green building, most of the certifications require that you have radon in there. I don't know what the code is for that. But if you're doing new construction, there's really no reason not to put a radon control in. It's your vapor barrier sealed up at a minimum. I mean, I know there's different levels of it. You can do better radon systems. You can do good enough. Anything is better than nothing. So at least try to incorporate that into all of your projects. All right, VOC load.
This is a fun one.
This is the
I promise we planned to talk about this before we know that Andy Pace was going to grace us with his presence.
All right, so she shared this slide with me just for.
He was like, what are we doing with the homeless people? What's that picture for?
No, I thought this is like we're gonna do a quiz and like tie everyone up and like not let you leave, but.
Does anybody know what documentary this is from? Anybody? It's the, there we go, we got it. It's a Febreze documentary. Well, it's a documentary on indoor contaminants. So Febreze, it went through their strategy, their sales strategy. Here was their sales strategy. Mask the odors. That's it. Mask it. Make it smell nice, right? We all have car air fresheners. We got Glade plugins, all those types of things. So Febreze, in a commercial, is trying to get across the point, hey, we could put you in this dirty house and spray some Febreze around you. And these two ladies are interviewed going, oh my gosh, it smells like a field of flowers. It's so delightful in here. They take the masks off and obviously they are horrified because it's disgusting. So the argument for masking odors is if you go into a place or if you, shameless, like, I'm gonna give advice, don't be mad. If you own a Glade plugin, if you use Febreze, your task, your homework is to go home and throw them away because they're doing nothing for you. They're adding to horrible indoor air quality and they're just masking an odor that you're trying to avoid. That's just a tiny example. Andy gave us a great example when he was here in November of all the other chemical contaminants that can affect clients. Tori understands this. We have a handful of people in this room who are dealing with extremely sensitive clients. That's not just to mold, that's chemicals, that's VOCs. I've had clients where they leave a really mold sick home, they build a new home and they feel worse in that house than the house that had mold in it because they're reactive to all the chemicals, all the contaminants, all the building supplies. We have some who are even so chemically sensitive. I think this was your example too. You can put in a really nice non-toxic linoleum, but it's sealed with linseed oil. And you have people who are reacting to the oil in the flooring. That's how sensitive some people are. So that feels really rare. I'm sure there's not a ton of you in this room who have dealt with that type of chemical sensitivity. But the consideration for, a general list of things like sealants, cabinets being MDF, insulation having formaldehyde, all of these things are going to have chemical properties. Also, as a practitioner, I'm running labs on people and I'm testing chemicals, heavy metals, molds, mycotoxins, dig into things like viruses and bacteria, but I can literally test the chemicals that are in products to see what's going on. I'll share one more thing and then ask you. I had a client at Coke, lived in an extremely moldy house up near me actually, remediated a massive amount of the square footage, fixed the ventilation systems, fixed leaky windows, all the mold is gone. We've had small particulate cleaning is completed, post-sampling results are beautiful, and the guy is still panicking. Like, I don't know that I can go back in the house. Moves back in, feels amazing, but starts feeling bad again. Panics. Mold PTSD is definitely a real thing. He wants to leave the house, and I say, let me run another lab panel for you. We're gonna check one more thing. Extremely high on his labs are specific things called PCBs. So chemicals usually found in plastic. I said, wait, you work at Coke, right? What are you drinking while you're at work? Bottled water. So I said, for the next 30 days, we're not gonna do anything else. You're just gonna trust that you're safe in your house. I want you to stop drinking water at work. You're gonna get a stainless steel thermos. You're gonna fill it up. I don't care if it's 40 ounces. Bringing that to work, that's all you're drinking. 30 days later, we test, all the PCBs are out of his labs. Oh, you're just saying, yeah. Corbett, what was your question?
Rachel, do you feel the same way about purple drywall? Which got anti-fungal?
Jury's still out. I don't like to be very black and white, even with spray foam. But I think when we are considering, when we had that roundtable discussion in October or something, I try to just like listen and hear about the R value of insulation. But I think the question I posed as a practitioner, I would be remiss if I didn't say, what is energy efficiency if we're not considering the health of the inhabitants? What is like a really high efficient energy build if we're not considering the health of the inhabitants? And like you kind of started with, we can't just write people off because they have lots of questions and they're concerned about chemicals and what if we use this product and I heard about rock wool on the internet, this influencer told me it's great. We have to just be open to educate ourselves on products we haven't used, Be mindful of the fact that some clients are chemically sensitive and it does actually affect people. And honestly start to believe, I just gave you an example, I can prove that some of these chemicals are in clients' bloodstreams. So to me, it's more a matter of, if I were to build a house one day, I'm gonna wanna build a healthy house. Now, there's lots of things that go into that, but as low VOC, low chemical that I can build would be my priority because I've dealt with the after effects of chemicals, and that's the clientele that I serve. That was my passionate rant. Continue.
So I've got a picture of one of my projects, just because I didn't want to pull a random one off the internet and offend anybody. There's nothing wrong with this picture, but it was a slide so Rachel can talk about finishes.
Yeah. No, I think we were in the overall category of chemical contaminants. We're talking about, you look at this house, right, and nothing seems wrong, but we could walk in this house and test it, and it could have extremely high endotoxins. Anybody know where those come from? Anybody? Endotoxins? No? Bacteria. You can have it with your sewer gas. You can have it with moisture and microbial growth. But it also could be the old books. Anybody considered that? No? Everybody looks really confused. Furniture. So part of my remediation protocols, even though I'm not the remediator for clients, is going through each of their possessions based on species and spore count in the home and determining if we can salvage the item. Now, if there's visible growth, we're taking a lot of precaution or we're just getting rid of it. But a lot of the internet is telling people when it comes to mold and other environmental toxins, if you're affected and your possessions are porous, get rid of them. That's what we did. I do not recommend that to anybody. I've only said that to one client in the almost 1,000 clients that I've worked with. The argument is I could throw up a picture of a brand new, beautiful house, and then I can have a client go in and still get sick. But we have to ask the questions to deduce what's making them sick. Is it poor build? Is it poor ventilation? Is it moisture? Is it microbial growth? Is it bacterial growth? There's all sorts of questions to ask, but we can't just walk into a space and think it looks good. Does that make sense, everybody?
You can't tell how healthy it is from Zillow, so.
Yeah.
This was that same house with the cars in the basement. This is the room that my eyes were watering, and that's why I was watering that rubber floor. I had a client that after we did their basement, they also put a rubber floor in and then glued it down. So the solvent and it was so bad. We had to install an ERV just in that space just to help ventilate it. Cause they like, well, we're keeping our gym floor. I'm like, all right, we'll just live with the smell for a year. You'll be fine. Just kidding. They live with the smell for a year. This is Chris, I'm not picking on your project. This is I heard somebody else say that and there's actually somebody that was in this room, they're not in this room right now, so I'm not picking on anybody or telling who they are, but they said that if you have an induction cooktop, you don't need an exhaust hood. Because I mean, you're not getting nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nothing's coming off of it. So yeah, so if you can cook, or even if you can't cook, even eggs, you've got the PM 2.5 that comes off of that. But you need also to design a proper ventilation system where this you can't see what's in there, but it's ventilating out. But we also have makeup air coming in, and this is something amazing that Chris designed for us. And this isn't ugly. You can't see the makeup air coming in there. So like when you're depressurizing your house, you could cause lots of other issues. You're not controlling where the air is coming in. It can come in from wherever. It's going to come in from wherever it wants. In my house, it comes down the chimney. So I have to crack a window next to I do have an induction range, but I don't have the makeup air quite yet because we're in the middle of redoing our kitchen, but it's coming in from where it wants. Open up the window, that's our makeup air. It's short cycles. I don't have a huge energy penalty. So you definitely, the PSA, this is for the internet, induction cooktops still need ventilation.
Real quick, had a client who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The wife had heard about mold and thought mold was maybe affecting her husband. There is research that correlates Alzheimer's with mycotoxins. We go into the house and we test everything. We don't really find a ton of mold. There's some in the HVAC unit. What we find is degradation of aluminum in the HVAC unit had caused this minute particulate matter to go airborne, and he was breathing it in. So we find there's a handful of physicians in Atlanta who will dig into things when I ask, but we sent him in for a lung biopsy, and we found aluminum pieces in his lungs. We proved this because we tested for heavy metals. So we get him on a heavy metal protocol. We obviously fix the ventilation and the HVAC, the whole mechanical system. And 3 months later, his diagnosis is reversed. So that was purely from, there was moisture in the unit, it was rusting and degrading the unit, and the aluminum was going and creating particulate matter that was going airborne throughout the house. So that just goes to show you, you kind of have to play detective. Obviously, I went into the house thinking mold, but we came out determining it was metals because we had sampling from his health that was also telling us there's something else going on.
Because you tested.
Yeah, test or guess.
Because Corbett tests our house. Because we design these systems, we have to test them.
Yeah.
You have some other images, but the good news is most of these are preventable and it's not cost. I mean, the test that she talked about doesn't cost that much. A lot of these things are just not doing things. Just don't do stupid things. That doesn't really cost much. Just you just have to think a little bit.
So we thank you for
South Face has
coming.
one too.
We're having further conversation outside. You have to leave now.
All right. Good job, Rachel.